The House Budget Committee is examining whether a strict 3% deficit to GDP target can break the debt cycle and secure the nation's fiscal future. Joining us now, Texas Republican Congressman Jody Arrington. He is the chair of the Budget Committee. Mr. Chair, it's good to see you. Sounds good. Sounds good in theory. Is it possible? We might as well talk about it, but where are you getting on this at this point?
Well, let me first say what matters most is what we're doing now and what we're budgeting for next year. And, Joe, your listeners, viewers should know we've held discretionary spending flat for the last 4 years, ever since Republicans were in charge in the House, starting with the debt ceiling negotiations and then on into the big, beautiful bill. So we're bending the curve on spending, putting pro-growth policies in place, and that is restoring fiscal health. But in terms of the long-term plan, we've been looking at 10-year balanced budgets for decades, and we haven't had a balanced budget in a quarter of a century. And today, if we're going to balance in 10 years, that's $18 trillion. We'd have to do what we did in the big, beautiful bill every year for 10 years. So I think any successful endeavor starts with defining success and setting achievable, ambitious, but achievable goals. And in this case, we're talking about reframing where we take our crisis level annual deficits per economic output, which is about 6%, and put it on a glide slope down to 3%, where we're growing the economy faster than our rate of deficit spending and inflation. That should put us on a better trajectory, a more sustainable one, and then we can take it from there on the more ideal path to balance.
You know, we've tried that. I mean, I remember DOGE. We know how hard it is. When we were trying to do that, we tried to get rid of some pandemic-era subsidies for Obamacare. Look, when you try to take back any type of emergency funding that was, appropriate at the time, it never happens. It's impossible to gouge it back, it seems like. So you're saying 6%, take it all back, and you get to 3%. But there is a sacred cow, and there's someone every single penny you're cutting, there's someone that's saying, no, you can't do this. You're killing it.
That's right. I mean, look, political will is probably the biggest deficit in Washington, D.C. That's going to be the bottom line on the choices and strategies every year. But we have Democrat support for this. That's what's important. We've never had, I don't think in the 50 years, we have Democrat support for establishing a measure of success at deficits to GDP and a goal of 3% in 10 years. And listen, if we just do what we've been doing.
Does it involve taxes?
Well, listen,
are you talking spending?
Well, look, let's be clear. Democrats will say that they're going to tax our way out of the debt, but they never raise taxes enough to compete with their expansion of entitlements and spending. But let's be fair. Republicans talk about cutting taxes, but they never cut spending commensurately. So we've all contributed to this. I don't think the answer, Joe, and you know this, is to raise taxes. But the point is, whoever's in charge that reflects the will of the people, let's have a blood oath that whatever we do, we're not going to push more deferred tax on our children, which is this growing $2 trillion debt and $39 trillion, massive debt.
We're almost at 40. And is this going to pass the day you're in the House? I guess there could be some Republicans that say, no, we're not going to do this, but there'll be enough Democrats for this to pass and hope.
Maybe not today, though. There are some procedural.
When's it going to happen, Cameron?
No, I think we're going to pass it. I hope we can get it done today. There's a rule that would have to be waived. I think we should in this exigent circumstance here. These poor TSA agents and their families have been without a paycheck for 40 days. And I think that there's not just sort of inconveniences at stake. I think there's a public safety issue. But here's the sad thing. There was no concession here on policy. So this was another needless exercise. And Democrats want to use this to go back to their districts and talk about how they stopped the deportation process, how they fought to support sanctuary cities, because they want to fire up their left-wing base. It's going to be an interesting pivot in the general election, but again, needless, unnecessary, and expensive, by the way, a costly a proposition to shut the government down. So we got to get it back open, and then we got to get to Reconciliation 2.0, support our troops, help fill the gap on securing the border, and do more anti-fraud reforms to offset all the above.
Congressman, if it's not passed today in the House, will the House remain in Washington through the weekend and get it passed on Monday?
Well, Becky, we typically don't do that, but that's absolutely what we should do. In fact, I have a reform bill that would say no more shutdowns, shut the politicians in Washington until they get their job done. If we did that, we wouldn't have the 40-day shutdowns. But yes, whether we stay or whether we do it today, and I think we should get it done today, I think we're going to have the vote. You'll have Democrats and Republicans both peel off, but I think there's enough support on both sides to get it passed.
You're always optimistic about another reconciliation, and then we have, depending on the guest du jour, it is a wide spectrum. I think Mike Johnson kind of says, yeah, I'd like to do it, but that's about as far as it goes. And then Jason Smith says, no way, we're ever doing anything else. Then it's something, we always hope for the possible, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I start with the fact that the American people gave us this unified Republican leadership to lead and to advance the America First agenda. And a big part of that is, again, supporting troops, securing the border, and ridding our government of this widespread fraud. There's a boatload of waste and fraud. I mean, just look at the watchdog group's reports, $180 billion in improper payments. You look at the Earned Income Tax Credit program, one program, it loses 30 cents on the dollar. That massive $180 billion in annual improper payments is 3 times the Homeland Security budget. And fraud's a whole nother story. You've got low-income housing tax credits, for example, another sort of welfare program within the tax code that doesn't prohibit illegals from siphoning money off that and jeopardizing the sustainability of that program. We should do what we did in SNAP and Medicaid on the other 78 means-tested welfare programs at a cost of $1.5 trillion. If we did that, we could offset anything that we want to do that is a national priority, especially and including supporting our troops in a time of conflict.
Well, in the reconciliation, how would it work with the funding of ICE? I hear that. Would that be part of it? Is that in the mix? What wasn't? I mean, they're funded. It's funded until 2029 anyway. But
that's right.
I don't know. This was so weird. It was like this symbolic kabuki dance that we got. But so it could be replaced with this.
It can. Look, we have tens of billions of dollars that we put in to support deportation and enforcement in the big, beautiful bill. So there are surplus monies that can plug that hole. We could also include extended funding, anticipating more shutdowns in the future, with Democrats on the side of stopping deportations and putting our ICE agents at risk. But nevertheless, we have an opportunity to include that in a budget reconciliation with the broader security, including supplemental resources for our military, or we could do 2. We actually have 2 more bites at the reconciliation apple. I think what's important is that we do it responsibly. I think we have a lot of House members that want to see the support that's necessary, but they want to see the offsets.
The parliamentarian wouldn't sign off on the Save America or whatever it is on the voter ID. Could it for reconciliation? Is that something you're thinking about?
There are ways, I think, that you could creatively put incentive monies attached to voter integrity initiatives, whether it's cleaning up the rolls or voter ID. But that's a trickier one, Joe, for sure. It's not as straightforward, again, as cutting waste and fraud or doing something like we did in the tax code in the first one.
Okay. I hope you get to go. Whenever you're trying to go, I hope you get to go.
We're ready.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
Congressman.
you. Good to see y'all.
Good to see you. Up next.